Hi, this is Steve Leone. I'm from Renewable Energy World, reporting from Intersolar North America in San Francisco. I have with me as my guest today Graham Stevens, Associate Director at Navigant Consulting. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks for inviting me.
So, Graham, we're always hearing about this tremendous pipeline of projects. How would you expect this pipeline to impact manufacturing in the U.S.?
Well, the manufacturing you can divide up into kind of three different areas. You can look at it from a module manufacturing perspective, and there we've seen a relative flight of manufacturers. There are a few manufacturers still here for solar, Solar World in Oregon, but a number of the manufacturers have really moved their production to Asia, and we expect that trend we've seen in flat panel display, we've seen that in semiconductor, and we sort of expect that to continue to some extent. The bright spots for manufacturing are on the supplier side. There's a large amount of polysilicon manufacturing, which is a material that is used to create solar cells, that is created here in the US because of our lower electricity prices, and then shipped to East Asia, made into modules and shipped back. And you also have, of course, with that large pipeline of projects, you'll have a large number of installation, electrical, mechanical installation, project design, financing, and so forth jobs that'll be created on the installation side. So there's really kind of a valley of high supplier jobs, low modules, high installation jobs created by that big surge of demand.
Do you see any scenario in which the modules would also move into the U.S. market?
Sure. The right now, approximately 80% of modules are crystalline modules, and roughly 20%, 15 to 20% are thin film. And in the thin film area, First Solar is the leader, world leader by far, and they have plants in the U.S. as well as Malaysia and other places, and we would see their production increase as well. And the reason behind that is that the glass costs are a much larger proportion of their total cost, and shipping glass around is an expensive proposition. So generally you want to locate the plant as close to the end use as possible. And so for thin film we would see more manufacturing in the US, and that'll depend on how well thin film competes with crystalline silicon as time goes on. And aside from First Solar, there are a number of thin film solar companies that are finishing their first plants and just ramping up into full-blown production. And it'll again depend on those cost efficiency hurdles and bankability hurdles as they cross those. But that's very promising. A number of them have gotten DOE loan guarantees, and so those plants are getting launched pretty well, and we'll see how that pans out over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, geographically speaking, plants kind of everywhere from, Indiana to Arizona. Where is the geographic hotspot going to be, or is it distributed all across the country?
Well, you can think of it as in a couple of different ways. For the innovation and the R&D side, when you're getting your first plant, and typically that period can take a while, those will be in the innovation centers of the U.S. So Silicon Valley, Boston, Colorado close to NREL, Austin, Texas is another center. So you have kind of innovation centers for those first plants. Once you get beyond the first plant stage, you're into second plant and larger facilities. Then the locations of the plants will basically follow the incentives. So there are manufacturing incentives being offered by Oregon with the Betsy program. There are a number of other states that are offering very attractive incentives, and those do vary wildly. So Indiana, you mentioned, Tennessee, New York. There's a number of locations where there are some pretty attractive packages being offered by the states. And so the larger plants would follow those incentives, essentially, to reduce cost. And yeah, that's so a little bit of a mixed bag.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving us a little bit of how the manufacturing industry is going to shape up in the next few years.